So the assumption is the problem. The moment you assume you don't have the depth, then you want to go for it. And you cry about not having it, and where is it, and I used to have it, and it happened, and now it's not happening, and also, the chain, the whole train of thoughts comes, like a train, there is only one engine, and all the others are just following, They don't even have their own engine. It's just, the main engine is I want depth, you see. I want more depth. Now, my answer to that is, have it. Have as much as depth as you want, you see. Why not? Have it all. There is no end into the depth. It's an infinite fall. Have it all. Don't have just a bit of. Don't just wet your toes in depth. Why don't you just have it all? I celebrate you wanting depth. Go for it. The only way to love the self is to be it. Says the Master, you see? The only way to love the self is to be it. So yes, good, you want more? Have it. But don't go in the wrong direction, you see? Because otherwise you won't have it. You will have more of the same confusion. You will have more of the same inadequacy or feeling of not being complete. Feeling of not being really complete. So have it. Have it all. Jump in into the wonders of yourself, you see. Jump in. And never move away from it. Nothing stops you from it. It's not against the law. They haven't noticed yet. Well, we live in times that you can actually live quite relaxed in clarity. In other times you would be burned, probably. But well, luckily we live in these times. Have the depth, you see. Be with the wind, Be the wind. Play, There's no limitation. Be the cloud, be the wind, be the rain. Have it all. Why have a little bit? I agree with you. Why to have just a little experience? The experience is nappy, you see? It's nappy time. It's like kindergarten. You're too big to have a nappy, to wear a nappy. Huh? Well, no, there are big nappies nowadays. We could find one for you. So did you find the depth you were looking for? Good. Now you know what it is? Good. That's a solid answer. Have it all. Do not fail to catch the thoughts, It's not difficult. Once you get the hang of it, you just realize everything is thoughts, and you can be very still inside. Everything else is thought. Only you are not thought. The only real thing is you. The other things are thoughts. objects are thoughts, memories are thoughts, individuality is a thought, your personhood is all a thought. So for you to live in the depth, you need to swap, you see, you need to change. To not dwell in thoughts, but to dwell in beingness, in who you are. It's quite straightforward, no? Is it very difficult, what I'm saying, to understand? It's not, no? Is it? You look at me like if I'm speaking Chinese. Or
We do go off into thought, don't we? We may be resting and...
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I was sitting here at rest, but finding that my thoughts were going off. I'd suddenly find that I had been, I don't know, maybe rehearsing something that will be happening. And at that point I was thinking, oh, come back to the rest. But it kept happening, and then I thought, well, actually, if I'm sitting here contemplating my real nature, this is it. This, what's happening now, is all part of it.
Yes.
So, if you have that perception, you are being who you are.
Well, there is no other way. You know, you cannot be who you're not.
Yes, yeah. One of the things that occurred to me was many years ago I did transcendental meditation. And in that practice you have a mantra, and if the mind goes away and in thought, that's fine. Once you recognize that, you just come back to the mantra. Now I suppose what I was doing as I was sitting here earlier was not doing that practice, but I suppose in thinking that I'd gone off to think about, you know, a trip to Germany or something, that's not what I ought to be doing, that I ought to come back to practicing what I was or doing what I was doing, which was less or not thinking about Germany. Yeah? So what I was wondering was, should there be that pulling back process to something more fundamental, or is it okay to realise that that was perfectly natural, and what comes next will be perfectly natural if there is an awareness of it?
Absolutely. So long as there is awareness of yourself, yes, and you don't become someone lost,
okay,
needing to go deeper, or feeling that should not thinking that.
Yes, that's it, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So long as you don't have forgetfulness of who you are.
Even though you are forgetful, are you forgetful?
No, it doesn't matter, because what happens is that in self-awareness, what your own knowledge of who you are replaces the false idea of who you are. And once that happens, you know, you are free to put your attention wherever you like. As many trips to Germany as you like.
But should I be somehow aware I'm thinking of my trip to Germany? Or if I'm just thinking of my trip to Germany, am I in some sort of fantasy?
If you think that you are in the fantasy, then you should pay attention of what happens to your attention. Yes. But if you are aware that fantasy is in you, you don't need to do any effort.
I nearly got that.
Yeah, if you think that you are lost in the fantasy or that you are in the fantasy, then you should still practice, you see,
Okay.
the
yes.
recollection of attention into the self until you become conscious and aware that it's not that case, but the other way around. Fantasies are in you.
Yeah. Okay.
Hmm? Yeah?
Yes.
That
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense?
Yes, it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, that happens. That's why there is no rule. And in a way, when you practice things, sometimes without guidance, you can practice the rest of your life, you know. You can be all your life doing practices, if you like. And you will find endless ways of feeling inadequate and wrong. And particularly, I know people who blame themselves for being distracted. It's like if you say, "Oh, I can't stop the blood running through my veins. I don't know what to do." You know, I should be able to stop the blood running through my veins by now. No. I know people who take the blame for the mind. And said, "It's my fault. Look, I'm again distracted in this thought." And it's a torture, because it's not your fault. It's a fantasy that there is a fault, number one, and it's a huge assumption that is yours. So there are two absurd thoughts. So, A, there is no fault. It's the functioning of consciousness. And B, to assume is yours, it's like not more absurd than saying, "Shall I stop the rain because it's been enough water today?" It's not more absurd. I know people who take the blame for that and they feel terrible about it. "Oh, my mind, and I'm a unique case. I don't know what's wrong with my mind," they say to me. "Just keep going in circles." Mind goes in circles. It's not what you do. Circular is the energy of the whole universe. You see? You don't need to take claim for that. So it's a big mistake, and that's why the distraction is not the cause of anything. It's that for you to get clarification of what is already true, you need to hold the distraction for a moment and just get stronger in your attention, in your willingness to focus. But then, as you align your focus, you will see that everything is in the place that should be. Then when you lose that alignment, you think the mind is going the way it shouldn't go. The complaint about the mind going the way it shouldn't go, it's an it's coming from out of alignment. It's coming from lack of clarity. Anyone complaining about the mind being wrong has no clarity. As simple as that. Anyone thinking that the attention shouldn't be where it is lacking clarity.
So is this part of the sort of big yes to yourself you were talking about?
The what?
The big yes.
The big yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Oh yes. You need to finally seal the alignment and start seeing from clarity, and then you will see that every complaint of the mind is of the mind. But you used to take credit for the complaints of the mind. It's as if you have a neighbor, okay, that complains about the services, you see? The water service is bad. And he comes, you want to sign? I'm going to make a complaint letter to the water company because it's just so wet. He said, okay, I sign. So now you send a complaint to the water company, and then the electricity, and then the gas. So you're complaining about something that is you're partaking the complaints of the mind, which is lost. It's the neighbor that is lost. So when the mind is complaining about you not sufficiently present, you say, yes, we are not sufficiently present. My mind is right. And when your mind is saying, oh, well, you are too distracted, yes, I sign below. I'm too distracted. And the mind said, now you're too hungry. Yes, I'm too hungry. And your mind said, well, now I'm feeling lonely and I don't like to be alone, and that's not well. Yes, that's wrong. So you agree with everything the mind says. You're completely devoted and submitted to the power of your mind, in a way. You know, it's like obedient. Completely obedient. The mind says, oh, you're too pink? Yes, I'm too pink. I need to be more yellow. So this is what happens, you know, the tyranny of the mind tells you all these things, and you accept it without examining it. And the most helpful and logic and healthy way of approach is that before you make a complaint, make sure there is a problem. No? Isn't it obvious? Otherwise you complain about things. And that's what nobody does. Everybody complains, but they don't check if it's true or not the problem. You know? Look, I'm thinking about Germany, you know? Shouldn't be thinking about Germany. Isn't that a problem? Or I want to be deeper because I'm definitely not deep. Yes, that's true. Let's find out how to go deeper. And so on. But if we learn to read our mind, you see, if we learn to look from clarity, which means you learn to read the complaint and, yes, take it on board, not laugh about it, but make sure it's real. You know? You can go to a neighbor and explain, look, it's water, it's natural that it's wet. Wet and water go together. So, okay, maybe your neighbor relaxes and says, okay, then we don't need to send a letter complaint. Yeah, we don't need. Okay. So it's not that you ignore your mind. You give it attention and say, yeah, okay. Am I not deep enough? Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay, look at me. Where's the end of me? For you to measure my depth. And the mind will look into you and get lost in it, and the complaint will vanish. You understand? And so on. The mind will say, I can't keep living the way I am. You know? I say, are you sure? Well, but yeah, I'm here. You know, I'm alive. So it's not me who can't live. It's your activity. You know, your thinking. Someone can't live up to whatever, but it's not my problem. It's just the complain kind of line. You know? And when we find the truth, you see, it's essential. That's why I'm saying you need to nurture that power of seeing, you know? Otherwise it's just too easy. It just comes through every hole. It's like the wind, you know, if you go with a jacket that is not windproof, you get cold, you know? It comes in every hole, the wind. And the same with your mind. If you're not careful, and if you're not very if you don't have discrimination, it will come with so many stories, you know. It has endless stories. And if you buy them, you're going to be endlessly looking for something else. That's the nature of samsara. There is no end. And that's what you need to come to understand. And that's why you need to be radical in the distancing from it. You know, in the saying, okay, hold on. You know? Imagine if you have a doctor, yeah, tomorrow, I said, well, I think what you have is this, so take this pill. No, the other day he said, no, I don't think it's that, take this other pill. And then now that we do this treatment, now we do that other. No, come, let me just look, oh no, that's what is different. And then you can follow every treatment he will do. Eventually you will say, look, you're going to kill me. You are lost in your diagnosis, and I'm believing you. And that's why I'm exhausted. And that's what happens with our mind. Our mind is making diagnoses that are lost. The diagnosis is wrong. And we believe it, and then we act accordingly. You know? So, okay, what's next? Tomorrow you have another demand, next minute you have another demand, in an hour you will have another thought, and in an hour later another one. So you're just running behind it like a slave, behind your mind. And liberation means that you stop that run behind your mind. Liberation means something that breaks inside in that context, and then you can still see your mind going, but it's going on its own. Now you don't follow it. And that's the flavor of liberation when it starts to happen in you. You see your mind going, and you know that that's where you used to be. You would have been there if you were not under the power of the blessing of liberation. You would have been there, you know, where the mind is. And it's permanently something new. Okay, oh, now it's curry with carrots. And, you know, 2 minutes later is a new tire of your car, and all of it is about you, you know. All of it is about you. It's an image of you, and what you should do, and what you shouldn't do, and what you should change, and it's a prison. It's a tyranny. Is a tyranny, and we fail to see it. You know, some people say to me, I don't want to obey anything, but you obey in your mind is the worst. I mean, it's like too late. You don't want to have a boss, but your mind is your boss. Whatever your mind tells you, you believe in it. You have an unquestionable belief in what your mind thinks. And that's what is wrong. Because your mind is not having thoughts of its own, it's just repeating things in a jumble kind of way. That is, it doesn't really make sense. It's just, you don't know what is authentic. What is really authentic is what you feel in your heart, not your mind. But what the thoughts are, it's just a mixture of cultural backgrounds with education and traumas and fears and emotional backups, and it's just it's a jam, you see. So your mind is just reacting on a mess, and it's not a good formula to follow it. It's just, if you don't want your life to be a mess, in that sense, you know, if you don't want to be lost from the depth of who you are, you have to stop failing from recognizing mental activity. Nobody can do it for you. Now, if you can't do it, well, then you can't do it. You know? It's only a few that can, apparently. Maybe it's you. I don't know who I'm talking to. Maybe one of you is capable. You come to ask me, and I tell you my experience. But there's not much more I can do. Yeah? Yeah, clear.
Yeah, very, thank you.
Okay, we have a question here, please.
Thank you. What I don't understand is the one that is checking out the mind, the thoughts. Isn't that mind?
Yes, in this moment is, because it's an object of your consciousness. You're talking about someone, and that's mind. That one is mind.
Yes. And I am talking about.
You're talking about,
Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
How
you're,
can I don't trust that one.
but you're right. You shouldn't trust that one.
But what I mean is the one that criticizes the mind. I don't trust that one.
Well, doesn't matter. Don't trust the one who criticizes the mind, and don't trust the mind. It's not different, but you think it's different. You think that one is someone, and the other is the mind. You haven't noticed that it's all mind. The subject and the object are mind. The only thing that is not mind is you.
So does that come from the heart? The looking at the.
You can say that, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You can say that. If you like to use a word to make a distinction.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, you don't even need a word for distinction. You can just simply rest inside and don't move with anything that moves. Don't move with anything that moves.
Yes, that makes sense to me. But otherwise,
Otherwise, you don't know where it's.
I feel the mind is
Yeah, it's playing
checking
trick.
the mind.
Yes, exactly.
Mm.
No.
So yes, okay, then
Mm.
that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Still difficult
Oh yeah.
because then the mind will come in and the other mind.
That's what I'm saying. It's not meant for everyone. You know, devotion is the other path. You know, when you can't deal with this clarity, then put your heart into the beloved, and that will do the same work. You will get away from what your mind is saying. So if you don't have discrimination and you don't have devotion, then you're in trouble, you know? Because then you're like a rabbit into the tiger's mouth, you see, saying, what shall I do? You know? To escape. Mhm. I would love a cup of tea. Do you know how to make a cup of tea?
No.
Oh.
If you tell me, I'll do it.
Okay, well, you you take water to 98.5 degrees.
Boring is
Mm.
money only.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It doesn't mean they're not doing anything about it. There's a lot of good people doing a lot of important work, but still, I don't think it's in proportion with the needs. You know, there is a need of every community requires the constant input of re-evaluating, you know, the positive sides of being together and celebrating differences and systematically. You know, otherwise it goes into, even if it's a small community, it goes into power games and so this is the time we should have finished already a while ago. I'm sorry, get distracted. I don't know if anybody wants to talk or ask anything before we finish.
Maybe just to return a bit to talking about thoughts. Yes. I think I would like a bit of clarification. I don't feel comfortable with with what was said. For myself, I don't understand it that well. So just what happens to me is that quite often I become overtaken by a lot of thinking, unproductive thinking, some of it quite crazy, or nothing interesting, nothing productive at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way I see it is that I can, with another level of thought, try to reduce that to some kind of sensibleness, some kind of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But it still is only my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm waiting for, or what's behind that, is I hope that there'll come a time, and it does come, when a silence reasserts itself,
Mm-hmm.
or a more peaceful vibration reasserts itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then the thoughts just lose their power.
Ah.
But of course it comes again. Yeah. So, and when dealing with thoughts kind of mentally, it's very helpful what has been said here, what you've said, not to judge things.
Mm.
So not really judging the thoughts, but just seeing that a lot of it is absolutely unuseful, just going to make me panic. Or is that what you meant by turning towards the heart, waiting for that
No,
stillness to come?
no.
Okay. Can you help me a bit?
Yeah, it is not about waiting.
No, I feel that's the wrong word to use.
Yeah, it's not about waiting. It's, more like the power of thoughts, doesn't exist without the power you give them. So understanding that principle is about what I'm trying to say.
Mm. Mm.
Understanding that principle. So then, if you give your power to the thoughts, then you lose your power to be aware of stillness. So it's as if you have a limited amount of energy, and then if you give it to the thoughts, you take it away from what you most love. And So the price is quite high.
Yes, thank you, that is clarifying. But the understanding, you would precisely call that thinking.
No, it's a practical thing.
It's an understanding.
It's a direct.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, it's a practical thing directly. Yeah, not thought.